We are back with more Inside the Green Room
Shit.
with Danny Green. I'm Harrison Sanford on the SiriusXM Podcast Network. Check us out on YouTube. Do us a favor, subscribe, rate, and review. The thought would be we would start this episode because, like we typically do, try to tape an episode in between series, talking about a bunch of optimism going into the next series, review round one, and then Shams Charania had to be the messenger of bad news. The bearer of bad news. Let me go ahead and just give you guys the report just in case you haven't seen it already or just are about to hear it. Sources: 76ers All-Star Joel Embiid suffered a right orbital fracture and mild concussion in series-clinching Game 6 win in Toronto. He'll be listed as out, and there is no timetable for his return. We were literally 5 minutes away from recording this episode when Shams was the bearer of the bad news and tweeted out to the public. Danny, give me your first reaction.
I was in shock. I was very shocked by it. So we had our brief little banter about it before we jumped on, figuring out how we wanted to speak on it. But yeah, we saw him on the plane after the game. He was holding his head. It seemed pretty severe. We didn't know. It said no stitches. I saw a little scratch. But when it happened, he kind of wanted to go back in the game. Like, Joel, you can't go back in the game. Yeah, we subbed you out. You had the challenge to play. Let P. Reed play. Mind you, we probably should have pulled the plug a little earlier. But I mean, it is what it is. We're waiting for Nick to throw his subs in first. So it is what it is. Like I said, he came out. It seemed like the adrenaline he still wanted to play. But once I think it set in, and after the game, you could see, in the locker room, he was holding his head a lot. He was kind of, a little leery. His body seemed a little weary. On the plane, he was under the covers. Usually they play cards. He was on the bus. He kind of just laid down, covered his face. I think the lights were getting to him. But yeah, it seemed pretty severe. We were just hoping for the best. We didn't know what was going to happen. We just got the news. We heard just like everybody else, on the internet. So we're all trying to, I guess, process this, taking it in. And right now we're listed as out, but in my mind, is that I'm not a professional when it comes to concussions or orbital fractures. I would hope that you can play with it. I'm hoping, if you wear a mask. But said I don't know if he needs surgery or not, or if he doesn't. We don't know the details. We don't know. I don't know the severity of it. But I've seen situations where he has had a mask in the past. Other people have had masks in the past, and we're hoping. He's been a soldier for us all year round, and this is only another thing to add to the list that he has to play through, which is gonna suck. We hope that he can play through it, but he had a torn ligament in his thumb. Now he has the orbital fracture, mild concussion, so we don't know how serious that is. But I just think the whole team right now is just hopeful and wondering. We're just kind of a little confused and lost and wondering what's actually happening. Until we see him tomorrow for practice, we won't know.
For sure. So have you – everybody is different, right? Everybody's body acts differently to certain things. Yeah. Have you had a concussion before, and how long and what grade was it? How long did it keep you out, this, that, and the third?
I've never been how do you say it? Diagnosed with a concussion. Like, technically, I've never been, and this is up until they didn't start doing these protocols up until about maybe halfway through my career, probably like 7 years ago. The first 5 or 6 years, we didn't do as many concussion protocols. They didn't check as much. When I was younger, when I played football, I was hitting the head a bunch of times. I've had a bunch of stitches in my face. I've been elbowed a bunch of times. So I don't know if I was technically concussed. But I've had situations where I did get hit in the eye. I think it was by Serge, and it was more of a situation where my balance was off, and I kind of, when your balance is off, you feel like woozy, and I think I started throwing up because of it. So I don't think I was technically concussed at that point either. So I can't really give you a sort of professional analysis of it. I just know, it takes a couple of days when I've been hitting the head to feel normal. And mind you, I hadn't broken anything in my face before. Knock on wood. Things have been going well in that sense. I've only had stitches. So yeah, I really don't know what the protocol is of like concussion recovery. From what I've seen, some guys can go 3 or 4 days, some a week, some maybe 2 weeks. When I've seen guys out for a concussion protocol, it usually takes at least 3 to 5 days, I think.
Yeah, so Right now, Game 1 is scheduled for Monday against the Miami Heat, round 2 of the Eastern Conference playoffs. I guess when it comes to the concussion, if it was solely just a concussion, I think Sixers fans could feel optimistic that maybe he could play, but we really don't know how to evaluate the orbital fracture. That's the thing that's just a total wild card in the situation. I looked here from a tweet from Jackson Frank, Jack Frank _ JJF on Twitter. A very good Sixers follow, knows his X's and O's very well. Got to get him on the show sooner than later. He tweeted out Friday evening, Joel Embiid suffered an orbital fracture and concussion in March of 2018. He underwent surgery and missed 3 weeks before returning with a protective mask. Now, he underwent surgery and missed 3 weeks. Mind you, the important part of that tweet was that it happened in March of 2018. Mm-hmm. The playoffs are not played in March, they're played in April. So maybe that was something where he was a little bit more willing to opt for the surgery because, again, it's the regular season, it's not the playoffs. Or maybe surgery was necessary. We don't know how that, if it is in this circumstance. But when you can see that history, Danny, does that change your thinking on what Joel might be able to do in the upcoming series?
A little bit, but I think if the surgery was an option or something that needed to happen, I feel like they would have tweeted that or put that out. Maybe it's just not, the information isn't out there yet. They don't know, and maybe new information or more information will come out later. But yeah, I hope we're all just hopeful. I said we just hope that it's not as serious as it was back then. We hope that he doesn't have to get surgery, and that he can, hopefully the concussion will hopefully pass. We're hoping that happens, and that the orbital fracture is not something that he needs to have surgery on, and that he can hopefully play with the mask on. We don't know, but with that information, that does change things. Him being out 3 weeks, it was regular season. I think playoffs a little different, but so all this information is very new to us. It's new to me. It's new to you, and to even guys on the team. We're all reading it just like you are. So until we see him tomorrow, until we speak with him or speak with the trainers and stuff and get more information, we have no idea. We're just going to be as hopeful as possible. And and if not, we have to adapt and adjust, and that's going to be a big piece that we have to adapt and adjust to.
For sure. I'm upset because I was planning to have a lot of fun on this show. I thought you guys, outside of Game 5, it was a very good series for you guys, and I think there were some memorable moments in that series, whether it was the dunk that you had in Game 2, I believe it was, or when you got accosted by your teammates because they tried to stop you from getting ejected. There were some moments in this series that I really wanted to talk about, and I don't think it's not appropriate now. And it's not what. Okay, Danny. Mm-hmm. You know what hasn't been fun?
Let's hear it.
All of the damn discourse, and there's a lot of fighting going on right now between Sixers Twitter, Raptors Twitter, Raptors fans, Sixers fans. Mm-hmm. Which fans are more disrespectful? These fans are disrespectful. These fans are out of pocket. XYZ, XYZ. All right, let me say one thing.
Why is this so much better? I mean, it's the playoffs, so I see all teams getting into it. But I don't know the fans and the Twitter and all that. Why are our fans getting into it with their fans?
Well, I think there is an undertone. There is an undertone, right? Because Canadians are known, are wide known as nice people, right? And Danny, you've been in Philadelphia. You know that a lot of Philadelphia fans get miscast as
rude, just ignorant.
Yeah. And a lot of them get miscast. And you know why they get miscast? Because there are bad seeds. Just like with the Raptors fans, there's bad seeds everywhere. There's bad seeds everywhere. So for any fan base to say this fan base is disrespectful or this one or that, no, everybody has their small minority of fans that are just out of pocket. So we can stop with the name calling. Come on, I mean it's fun in games, but like
it's unnecessary. It's unnecessary. But I will say this. I mean, there are probably bigger groups and other fan bases of bad seeds. There are some fan bases that may have more bad seeds than others. But yeah, the fans get into it. It's a basketball game. End of the day, it is competitive. During the series, obviously you're rooting for your team. Some stuff doesn't need to be taken personal. Some things don't need to happen. A personal attack, especially online and in social media. The series is over now, and so we have a lot of love and respect for those guys, and vice versa. There were some chippy plays, some plays that people thought or assumed or their opinion was dirty. So I get it. But that happened throughout the whole league, not just our series. Other series got chippy too. You can see even some of the best, nicest teams in the league actually get chippy, even with Golden State. You know what I'm saying? You'll see some with Denver. You'll see some with Miami and Atlanta. You'll see some
Chris Paul in Phoenix.
There you go.
You got to get gritty sometimes.
Yeah, you see New Orleans, and they have some of the best guys, you know what I'm saying, in the league, some of the nicest guys, but when it comes to playoff time, it gets competitive. And the fans, you see they had the Jay Crowder shirts. So there is a line that doesn't need to be crossed, and we try to keep it, respectful and competitive, but at the same time, so not to a degree where it's disrespecting someone's personal space, Yeah.
For sure. I mean, when Joel is motioning to the crowd in Scotiabank Arena, egging them on, and he's talking, and they're screaming "F Joel Embiid," I'm with all that shit. Like, I like it. Like, that's great drama.
I'm sure he's with it too. That's why he's egging them on. But at the same time, I will say I was a little disappointed that they cheered when he did get elbowed in the face. That was one thing because it kind of brought me back to the time, which I know that they're harmless people. So the Canadians are amazingly nice. And when KD got hurt, the first reaction was, what I'm saying, at first they started to cheer, but then we're like, whoa. And they've seen how severe it was. Then they were like, all right, this is not the time to cheer. This is kind of a similar situation to me, but they didn't know how severe this situation was either.
No, I mean, we can keep it, Danny. We can keep it a buck too. But there were some fans in there that were point blank, even after they knew what it was, still booed. It's just the nature of fans. There are bad fans everywhere. To cast a conclusion on a whole fan base because a segment of them are just ill-intended or bad intentions. It is what it is. I get so annoyed because then Philadelphia fans should be annoyed. People in Toronto should be annoyed because now, because of one segment of fans, they're taking liberty of criticizing the entire fan base, and vice versa. Like,
we both know how great those fan bases are, and they're great people. We're not going to take a couple bad seasons and say Toronto has bad fans. We know how great that fan base is, even in Philly. Even though we do get booed here and there, the people that I come across when I walk through the city of Philly, when I talk to them, even at the airport, I gotta give a shout out to the dude that's at the airport every time we arrive. He's by himself out of his car, like, cheering us on as if we just won the game. It was like 6 hours ago. But they have some real loyal, great fans that show a lot of love, and I don't want to, take it out on them because of a couple bad seats. So both fan bases are great. They just need to respect each other, keep it moving. And so the nature of the game is competitive, but when somebody gets hurt, seriously injured, should not need to cheer or, it's not that. We don't need to have it in that atmosphere or that space. Like, it's not necessary.
A whole bunch of discourse I'm seeing on my Twitter timeline. That's fun in games too, but when you start making large conclusions about a group of people, come on now. We're all human too. We're all minorities too. We all come from different pockets of people. And if somebody started making a conclusion about me because somebody else who has same characteristics as me was acting out of pocket, I'd be upset. And both sides should be upset. Stop acting out of pocket. Stop wilding out.
Hey, listen, man. It's the playoffs. It's the playoffs. It's only the beginning, and it's going to get even more chippy. You can see, and people. I just think because it's a different type of world now today. Everything is based on social media. So, like, that's the only way that they take out their anger. Some people have fake pages. So, and there's a lot of cyberbullying that people get in trouble for. So, like, there's other ways. I'm saying, like, people have to find ways to vent or take their anger out, and the only way they can do it, I think, is social media. So, moving on to round two, I'm sure it's going to get even more chippy. I'm sure it's going to get even worse if we continue to win and go back and forth. If there's some plays that happen where guys are going to get physical, you better believe Jimmy Butler, PJ Tucker, Kyle Lowry, they're gritty guys. They're going to get after some guys, and some people are not going to like it in Philly, and vice versa. We got, if Joel plays, myself, Tobias, James, we're going to do some plays. They're going to be like, oh, George, sometimes he gives a hard foul. They're not going to be happy about it in Miami, but it's the nature of the game.
It's the playoffs, man. What do you not expect? Hard fouls? What do you not? Now, yes, it is unfortunate when a hard foul results in an injury, but these are the playoffs. We all grew up watching hard fouls in the playoffs. Would you like them not to commit hard fouls? Come on, stop it.
Yeah.
Now
you're watching the game because you want to see the intensity.
Come on. Okay, but before we even look forward to round two, I guess we got to kind of wrap this up because I know it's until you guys play game two, the discourse is going to continue. So we might as well talk about it. You already mentioned that you probably wish you weren't out there or the starters weren't out there up 30 with about a little bit over 3 minutes left, just under 4
Over
minutes
4
left.
minutes, about close to 5 minutes, about 4.5, 4:40
Yeah.
something when he got hit.
For sure. At the same time, you do bring up a great point. As long as Nick Nurse has his guys out there, you kind of have to be like, I mean, yes, 30 points would be a lot to make up. At the same time, your best players on the other team are still out there on the court. So it's kind of, it sucks. You almost, but at the same time, what did you expect? Nick Nurse to kind of lay down? Like, it really had to look inevitable.
They were going to fight till the end. You knew that was going to happen, but we were just waiting for him to pull the plug. And obviously, it took a little longer than we expected. Once we ended up 25-30, then it was like a little over 30. We're like, come on, like Nick.
Yeah, come on, bro. Come on, let me sit down real quick.
You know, let your guys rest. They played a hell of a series, played a hell of a game. Chris Boucher, Precious came up huge for them. But Pascal, even Fred before he got hurt, Scotty Barnes going from one ankle, Gary Trent, those guys hoops. And, at a certain point, you got to just say, you know what, we gave it all we could. We know it's going to be hard for even if we did, we probably could have pulled the plug earlier, but even if we did, I don't think they're going to make 30 points up within the 5 minutes or so. But they can score in bunches. But as I said, in the playoffs, you had that appropriate fear. And we respect them. And that's the reason why we kept our guys in until they took their guys out, because like, we know how good you guys are and how quickly you guys can make up points. So it's like, we're going to wait until the very last minute, or like we'll wait till the last 3 minutes of the game before we pull the plug, or we're going to wait till you guys pull your guys first.
Yep. And maybe, just maybe, part of that reason why the starters were still out there is because of the immense amount of discussion that was underway or that took place days leading up to Game 6 as it pertains to Doc Rivers and his coaching record. And we'll talk about his quotes in a little bit, but I want to continue with what happened in Game 6 and reflect on what happened and as it relates to 2019. So you've been on both sides now.
Mm-hmm.
Back in 2019, I don't remember. You probably remember if it was Game 3 or Game 4. I don't even remember. But it was not a series clinching game. I think it was Game 3 when the Sixers had a chance to go up 2-1. Joel Embiid did the helicopter celebration.
Yes, they won. I think they beat us by like 20 or 30 in Philly, and he did the helicopter celebration after he did a windmill or something like that. I think that's when it was.
Yes. Now, with that being said, I think everybody, you can correct me if I'm wrong, everybody on this Raptors team, obviously you're upset that you lost, but for you guys, like especially like you, Kyle Lowry, guys who've been in the playoffs for a long time, such as you have won the championship, you were taken aback by that showboat celebration because you guys, it was only a 2-1 series at that time. So give me your we'll fast forward it too, but give me your thoughts in that moment in time after that happened in that specific game.
Back in 2019?
Back in 2019, yeah.
It was still a good series. It wasn't like they were beating us up, 3-1, you know what I'm saying? Or they had taken a crazy big lead. Let's say it was still a series. It was like even or damn near one game apart. It was just extra motivation. We were like, okay, you got your one game, but we know that we still have a lot of time to get the last laugh. So for you to showboat now, we're going to showboat when the series is over. So it's just only extra motivation, which I'm sure they took when they saw him talking, trash to Drake and saying he's coming for the sweep, or when he does, his showboat when we're up, and Doc's like, make sure we stay solid. You know what I'm saying? Don't mess with the game. Stay professional. We don't want to have to get them to get chippy, this, that, and other, and we don't have the basketball gods, turn on us. You start celebrating after. I don't know if you guys recall, but we had a celebration before Game 1 of the Atlanta series, which Doc wasn't a fan of. A lot of guys weren't a fan of. And he's like, we don't do that anymore. We don't come in celebrating before the game is over, before the series is over. So I just remember having that mindset back then. It's like, all right, they showboat now. They got their win. It was a big win, but we're going to come back and beat you. And you're not going to be doing that, showboating after that loss. So, and I can see why. I know he's not doing it. He's kind of matured from that situation, that point forward.
He did. Yeah, he did it after the series was the series is over at this point, so it seems more appropriate.
Yes. So he said he matured from that, but these are type of situations, type of things that you don't have to give the team extra motivation to come back, and that'll haunt you or bite you in the ass. So, we try to stay solid and stay professional throughout the whole series till it's done. But I just remember during that time thinking that, like, all right, these guys are showboating, they're having a great time, they think they're kicking our ass. We got something for you, so we're going to use this extra motivation, and we're going to come back even stronger.
Yeah, I think there has been some activity on my Twitter account because I've commented on Joel showboating in this moment in the 2022 playoffs with them being up 30. And I'm not blaming Joel for celebrating the series. Now this one seems appropriate. He dunked. He had been going through what I thought, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, emotional kind of swing with his thumb. It didn't seem like he was all there. In this game, in that game 6, he finally got there from a confidence and swag level appropriate of who he is as a talent. Series is over. He gets the dunk. It's game 6. They're up. You guys are up by 30. The crowd is chanting, "Fuck Joel Embiid," excuse my language. He gets the dunk. All right, that's an appropriate time to celebrate. But,
sure.
And as I put on my Twitter account, we have all been in the park before. We have all... You're winning a game by 20, 15, and you're talking trash. Good, you won the game, but don't act surprised when the other team when somebody reacts. We've all played in the park before.
So yeah, we know that, and I think he knows that too. You deal with the consequences after, but you know you're going to talk trash regardless of how big you're up and how small. There's going to be some consequences, and you got to make sure that. And that's why, for the most part, a lot of guys. Or a lot of the coaches, a lot of the guys on the sideline, they gotta make sure we stay tight, stay solid, be professional, because we don't want the BS to come into the game where they're gonna get chippy and they start a fight and get guys kicked out, or you get fined, or you get suspended for next game. We don't need extra technicals and things like that. So, but that's the nature of the game. That's the nature of competitiveness or competing. So, and I said he knows the consequences, and that's why I think he's matured from that standpoint. He's not done it as much as he used to in the past, but he met those consequences head on, and he knew that the fans were going to keep going at him, and they're going to continue to keep going at him. But it was an emotional series for him, swag wise, and just from a standpoint of not being able. The last time he played Toronto in the playoffs, they lost, and he would make a big shot and he was able to get past. And every time he plays them, they junk up the game for him. They make it tough for him. He has historically rough games against Toronto. For him to overcome and beat them in a playoff series, I'm sure was, an emotional, win for him.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, hey, I don't knock him for celebrating at all. But again, you just know what can happen on the back end. Back in the day, teams used to employ enforcers. They used to literally have guys on the roster. Hey, listen, don't let this guy feel this good about his performance against us. Go bang him up. Now,
guys to use their fouls, all their fouls.
Exactly. I don't think Pascal Siakam is out there trying to hurt him. You know their relationship. They seem to be good friends, but. Danny, you've played on the playground before. You've played your friends before in NBA games. You've elbowed them. You've nudged them. You've pushed them. As the competitive fire, you dunk on me in front of my home crowd.
Yeah, we might be
scrapping. And you celebrate after. I'm not gonna try and hurt you, but I'm gonna let you know that I'm here.
Yeah, for sure.
It's an athletic competition.
For sure, and they're gonna not take the disrespect lightly. They take that as disrespect. So there's gonna be some grittier, some chippier plays happening after that normally. But,
for sure.
Let's say that these are things that as players, as people, as humans, we learn from, we grow from, and mature from it. And I think as Joel continues his career, he will understand and mature from it that there's certain times and places and certain things and certain consequences are gonna happen when they happen. But that's just who he is. He's a troll. He likes to talk his trash. And it works. And we love
him for it.
And a lot of people love him for it. We all love him for it. And so it gets him going. It gets him playing his best game. So I'm all for it. If it gets him up and it gets him playing his game, if he gets to play mad, cool. So be it. We're gonna need that. We just hope that people can keep it in line and keep it respectful, and not take it to another level where it doesn't have to be taken to.
For sure, yeah. Don't think he was trying to hurt him. It's just an unfortunate circumstance. And again, we don't know. The timetable is indefinite, right? So you have the concussion that it's a mild concussion. Now, again, everybody's body's different, but you have to be a little bit optimistic that he can come back from the concussion in due time. Maybe for game 1, you would assume by game 2. It's just now the orbital fracture that we have no idea how that's going to turn out. Again, back in 2018, had the surgery for the orbital fracture, missed 3 weeks, then returned in 3 weeks, had the mask on. Again, that was in March, not in April or at this point May, in the NBA playoffs. So we don't know how that's going to factor in. With that being said, I think we've covered all bases there. Let's talk about the Miami Heat. And I'll tell you at least what I thought about the series before we got the Joel Embiid news. At first, going into the playoffs, I thought you guys would beat the Heat. I thought you guys, just between Joel Embiid and everybody else on the roster, you just had more top-end talent, and I don't think they're that hard to guard. I think you could easily outscore them as long as you get more possessions.
We are very capable. I think we have the talent, we have the pieces, we have what we need to be able to win the series, yes.
Yeah, and then when I watched Game 5 and I saw how Game 4 was going, I lost my optimism because in order for you guys to beat the Miami Heat, I think you're going to need a standout performance from Joel Embiid. One, because he's the key to making you guys an elite offense because he draws doubles. And in the event that Eric Spoelstra feels emboldened to not double him, then it's a whole different type of series, in my opinion, because I think a lot of derives off of him being able to get the double. So the way he was acting in regards to his thumb injury, I'm saying to myself, man, maybe Eric Spoelstra is not going to double anymore. And so now that means a lot more moments where he's going to have to just dominate it or try and get Bam Adebayo in foul trouble. A lot more isolation opportunities for Tobias Harris, which, again, who's been playing well. But, again, you want to put everybody in their standout position. Now maybe James Harden's not getting as much leverage when he drives to the rim. Same for Tyrese Maxey. So, but then I saw Game 6, and I'm looking at Joel step back jumpers, hop step floaters, dunking the ball. I'm like, oh, his swag is back. He must be feeling at a comfort level with the thumb. And then now we have this. I don't even know what the hell. But in general, I think you guys have more than enough talent to outscore them. If you keep the pace going, play at a strong pace, I don't think they have enough scoring talent to keep up, especially because Joel can play in the paint, because Bam Adebayo cannot stretch the floor, even helps you guys even more. That was my initial thoughts. It's still around there.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't disagree. I think we do have a lot of potential offensively and the talent to do so, to score enough when we're clicking on all cylinders. But we have to play the right way, and I think we played the right way and sharp offensively. So 3 out of the 6 games probably in the Toronto series. We're going to need that for every game against Miami. You know, we got to make sure that we have James being aggressive, attacking the basket, Tyrese being aggressive, Joel doing what he does, drawing the double teams. Regardless, you know, if they double team or not, James is going to draw some attention when he attacks the basket, where he leave to kick out. Same thing with Tyrese. You know, Tobias, you know, being the defensive two-way player that he was in the series for us, you know, to play probably guard Jimmy Butler or whoever it is. But yes, if they don't double Joel going to take advantage of that. Even though Bam is a great defender, he was up for Defensive Player of the Year a couple times. Joel's going to have to try to take advantage of that matchup or mismatch or make them double him for everybody else to get off. But Spo is a great coach, and we know that he's going to throw different things out there, and he may junk it up or he may limit everybody else and make Joel just beat him himself. We'll see. We'll find out Game 1. But it's going to be interesting. But I do think we have the offensive weapons and the fortitude to be able to win the series. But we just have to be sharp offensively and obviously defensively try to limit them and not let them get as many threes off as they normally do.
And the lead for the show today, before we got the news from Shams, was I was going to point out how the media, big media, is upset that James Harden didn't have to average 30 points per game in order for you guys to win. I mean, the narratives out there about James Harden is like they are now, especially now the Jazz are out. Like everybody who's like anti-Sixers or not a fan of the Sixers wants James Harden to prove that he could score 30 points per game and overcome all his quote-unquote playoff demons and score in bunches and be like he was in Houston. And I've watched every game intently. We talked about basketball intently all the time. James Harden doesn't need to be that guy.
Nah, he just needs to be the point guard for us and facilitate, score when he can, when he needs to. Obviously, we want him to be aggressive, but he doesn't need to score 30 a night for us to win. He needs to do what he's been doing, and that's, you know, get in his bag, but for everybody else to get open. You know, when they're going to double him, and they're not calling the fouls in the playoffs. In regular season now, they're not. When he gets smacked in his arms and trying to, you know, get through the defense, he has to be a fullback in there. They're not calling those fouls. So in order for him to get to the free throw line, he has to do a little more, but also use that and bait himself to be, you know, to give himself up and then find guys to you know, get shots in the corner or threes on the perimeter. And that's where myself, George, Niang, Shake, you know, that's where we kind of where we pick up the pieces on that, and where we kind of have to help the team. And when they get doubled, we have to be able to knock down shots, step up, and obviously play defense. But be able to attack and score the ball for when those guys are getting double teamed. But yeah, if he continues to average 14 assists a game, and 22, 25, that's cool. You don't have to score 30. 22 is good, and more than fine. We got Tyrese who's scoring the ball more than enough, and so Tobias is also very capable of scoring the ball.
I mean, I get upset. It's almost like, how many points do you guys want the Sixers to score? Like, Tyrese Maxey is going to score between 18 to 22. Same with Tobias Harris. You already know Joel is good for 30 plus. How much? It's just like they want to bury this man while he's still alive. Like, come on.
That's what everybody, man. I've learned in being in this league that they don't appreciate a lot of guys until they're gone. And he's one of those guys, just like with LeBron and Steph has haters, which is crazy because he's one of the nicest, most religious, winning guys. Like, there's nothing wrong with it, but everybody in the league has people who hate them. There's usually fans of other fan bases, other teams, but there's always going to be people who criticize and find weaknesses or find things that are like, oh, he's not great, or he shouldn't be first ballot Hall of Famer because this, or he's lacking this, he's not, and they're comparing them to other people when you don't have to compare them at all. They're great. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to compare them to Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant. These guys are good at what they do, and they're great. And when they're gone from this game, you're going to appreciate what they brought to the game, how much they changed the game.
Yeah, I mean, you guys scored 99 points. 99 points through 3 quarters in an elimination game in Toronto. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, they're cooking again. And remember when the trade first happened, and then you guys had the Harden trade first happened, and you guys had some shaky performances. I think that I came on one show and I was very pessimistic. I don't like being that guy. But I said to you at that time, I was like, I don't know if you guys have, even though Tobias has played well, obviously Matisse has his abilities as a defender, and I was like, even though you guys could play better defense depending on how you guys look at it from an defensive standpoint, I don't think how you guys are constructed, just remember that's what I said at the time, that you guys can be an elite offense. Well, obviously now things have changed because Matisse is no longer in the lineup, and obviously Matisse still is a positive presence and can still be a positive player for you guys going forward, especially if you move into other rounds because there's a lot of talented scorers out there. But now with you in the starting lineup, I think you guys actually do have the ability to have an elite offense. And if you have like the best offense in the NBA, or if not the second, I think you and the Warriors have the top 2 offenses left. And then you guys can score in bunches, and you guys can score in bunches by hitting threes, and you still have a 7-foot monster in the paint who can draw fouls and score with a high level of field goal efficiency. As you saw it kind of develop with you in the starting lineup now, I'm assuming that you're starting to feel like, damn, we could run people off the court. And I guess that has to almost be the mentality if you have Joel going into this Miami series.
For sure. I mean, playoffs is never easy. You're not running. It's hard to run people off the court. I do think we have a lot.
In the sense that you outscored them.
We're very confident. I am more confident. Like, we have a really good chance. Not saying that I never thought that before, but the fact that I see us gelling and playing the right way and offensively having so many weapons in the floor, being space for those guys to work. Obviously, them figuring out rotations. We also still figuring out rotations. Now with Matisse back consistently now, because he wasn't inconsistent in the Toronto series, seeing with Doc how they throw the rotation up. But regardless of that, I said with the 5 guys when I'm on the floor with them, I felt a lot more comfortable. And I think they may feel comfortable with me as well, to where offensively, we feel like we can get a bucket whenever we want. When we run the way we're supposed to run things, execute things, when we're sharp and we're actually doing what we're supposed to do, you got to pick your poison. Are you going to double Joel, or are you going to double James? What are you going to do? Are you going to find Tyrese? Are you going to try to pack the paint with him, not let me get to the rim? Or are you going to, not let me shoot threes? Like, how are you going to do it? You have to hope that we have off night shooting wise. Even with that, those guys can get to the free throw line. Joel and James get to the free throw line. Tyrese is now getting to the free throw line some. So I said it's a tough night for most defenses to figure out how they're going to stop us. Our biggest thing is defensively. Saying obviously getting transition, not turning the ball over. So if we don't turn the ball over, we give ourselves a chance to get back and get set. And when we're half court defense, we're actually a lot better. But not taking bad shots and getting ourselves to get stops, getting back in transition, and just talking. But I've seen that we're capable on that end as well. When we are taking care of the ball and playing smart offensively, which we should not let our offense dictate our defense. But when we're doing that, our defense picks up a ton, and we actually able to communicate. I see Tobias picking up his defense, Tyrese being able to stay in front of guys, like James even being talking out there, being an anchor defensively and communicating. When we have that, I think we are a very good and dangerous team. So I'm like, I like our chances, and regardless of who we're playing and who we're going up against.
Yeah, so I'm going to operate on a level of optimism that Joel Embiid will be able to play. Again, the report said out indefinitely, not out for the series, not out for game one. It just said indefinitely, which means there's an indefinite amount of time. So I'm going to remain hopeful that he can play. He'll probably have to, I assume he'll have to play with a mask. But nonetheless, I think he will be, I'm hoping that he will be out there. And if he's out there, Danny, can I play head coach real quick? I know you haven't gotten this guy.
Do your thing, bro. We're all hopeful. I don't know how many times I said hopeful in this session.
Word of the day.
It's the word of the day. We're all hopeful and hoping, and hope is the biggest word that I've used. I probably said it 30 times within this session. So yes, but you go ahead and play head coach and see what you got, man. See what you got for us.
And you haven't had this is your day off for those out there trying to get upset. This is day off before you.
So I have no idea how we're attacking. We haven't seen film.
Exactly.
We don't know how we're attacking. I don't know what's going on. Shit, for all I know, Matisse might be in the starting lineup for this series. I don't know, so we'll see.
Doc did tell reporters after Game 6 that he expects to have you in the starting lineup for what that's worth. However, I mean,
he showed a lot of love. Doc showed a lot of love after Game 6, not just to myself but to Tobias. But it was great to see him have that confidence in us. And him continue to, encourage us and said for us to play at that level, that's what we're going to need, not just from him, but from everybody down the line. But for him to show a lot of love, man, it shows that he believes in not just me, but all of us. But, it makes you feel good as a player for him to make the comments he made about myself.
Speaking of which, before I play head coach, let's actually talk about your head coach, Doc Rivers. Mm-hmm. You guys have eyes and ears. You heard all the noise that came around Doc Rivers as it pertains to giving up 3-1 losses.
The leads and everything.
3-1 leads, yeah. And you already saw the noise that came in leading to the series, Doc Rivers versus Nick Nurse. How would Doc adjust to whatever Nick Nurse is going to throw out there? Because he's going to throw a multitude of things. There are a lot of things I like from Doc Rivers in this playoff series. One, obviously, I think it was smart before the regular season ended to get you in the starting lineup, to get you acclimated to what it could be in the playoffs, and it just so happened that you ended up playing the Raptors. A smart move. 4 starters out there with Paul Reed pretty much all the time. Never happened in the regular season. And if he would have told Sixers Twitter that he was going to do that in the playoffs, it would have been a lot less stress for a lot of Sixers fans on Twitter because they were wondering what the hell's going on here. Makes a lot of sense when you put him out there with 4 starters. I think he used the zone very creatively and in the right time. I also thought he had very good timeout usage as well. Stop and runs before they really get started. Good job with the timeouts. Obviously, the ATO was very good. And honestly, outside of, and this is probably more on you than him, or you as in your team than him, outside of Game 5 and just not being prepared to compete and battle, I thought it was a very strong series for him. The only thing I would say negative, Danny, was he didn't have to do the 2003 Orlando Magic like that.
You talking about when he brought up the series of when they were 8th seed?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were a good team, regardless of 8th seed or not. But yeah, it is tough to get an 8th seed to where he was at and be up 3-1. But he gave his side of what was happening. He said, I was young back then. I don't remember the series that well. I watched basketball then, but I don't remember, I wasn't in the league at that point. I was still not even, I was still in high school. So it was a long time ago. But yeah, no, he coached his ass off, man. So did Dan Burke. Shout out to him. He's the reason why we went to zone. Dan Burke is a defensive coach for us. He decided when we match up, when we were in the zone, they did a great job of that. They did it perfectly. And so Game 5, that was more on us than the coaching staff. We just didn't come to play. We weren't intense. We didn't have any passion. And that's where it starts, the competitiveness. And Doc, obviously lit a fire under us. And obviously, people go back to 3-1 leads because we lost 2 games in the series that we're up 3-0, and they think we're going to be the first team in history to lose a series being up 3-0. And it's like, come on now. Obviously we don't want to be on the wrong side of history, but I said it had a lot to do with us more than them. They did everything they were supposed to do in this series, even before we set the playoffs, of getting the lineups, rotations. Guys are feeling a lot more comfortable in their minutes now, in their rotations, aside from, Furkan and Shake. They only get like 10 minutes or a couple minutes here and there, Isaiah Joe. But they know they're going to have to be buffers and fill in for whatever minutes for guys need breaks and just do their job and play defense. But they said the coaching staff shout out to them. They did an amazing job this series, and we're going to need the same. Expose even a great coach too. He's even, I'm gonna say even better than Nick, but he's another challenge. He's even more of a challenge because it's the next series, and they've won, and he knows what it takes to win. He's got that DNA just like Nick does. He's been coaching a little longer, so we're going to need everybody on their P's and Q's, not just the players, but the staff as well. And I'm sure everybody can have their input, but the coaching staff has done an amazing job up to this point.
I'm curious. So, and you don't have to talk about your personal experience. You've been in the league long enough that you know experiences of other players. Mm-hmm. Now, players hold other players accountable all the time. Your teammate's not hustling. Your teammate is not whatever rhythm shot that he needs to take to get in rhythm. He's not taking it X, Y, Z. He's not shuttling his feet on the closeout. If your teammate's not acting right, you could call it out. Do players hold? I mean, and I know coaches hold players accountable. Do players hold coaches accountable?
Sometimes it's rare. Most coachable players don't really do it until after a season or after a series. We have suggestions. They also call it suggestion box. A lot of them don't care to listen to us. And we'll have our talks away from them, but let's say respectfully, we know that there are authoritative figures, and we let them coach how they're supposed to coach and listen to what they have to do, and we have to buy in. Regardless of what if we may disagree with it, if you buy into it, if everybody buys in, we feel like it can work regardless. That's one of the things Doc says. But yeah, at times there are some times. But I know coaches hold coaches accountable. I know they on each other's, and I'm sure Doc is on Dan Burke's ass when defense is not clicking. I don't think they get the same when the offense is clicking when they go to Doc, but it's more so when the defense is not doing the job. I'm sure Doc will get on Dan Burke a little bit. But yeah, they'll come to us and see which I do love about the staff. They're like, what do you guys think about this? And Dan Burke will be like, I'm like, yeah, I like that idea. Let's do it. You know what I'm saying? Or, we got this rotation in. I don't know if you want those two guys in the zone. You know what I'm saying? That, vice versa. However it may be. You might have flip this guy here, put this guy there, or not do this, or let's just go match up, or we might not want to match up with these two guys in. So it's good that they actually get some of our input and actually listen. But yeah, very rarely do you see players hold coaches accountable because a lot of guys in this league now, it's a different league back then, have to be more coachable than they were back in the day. Back in the day, guys probably cuss coaches out all the time. But what the hell you doing? We need to be doing this. But now, guys come in, they buy in, and that's the way to win. And then things don't work out, and it's like, all right, well, the series is over. Coach, I feel like we could have did this more. We could have did that more. We should have did this, and next year we could do that. Which is that it doesn't happen often. It's rare, but it happens once in a blue.
So, Doc Rivers, people in Toronto try to call him Glenn Rivers during the series, but I think he definitely earned his name back, or rather he had never lost his name. And again, I've been critical of Doc too, but I thought he coached his ass off for sure. He commended you after Game 6, said that if he wanted to go on the road anywhere, I'm bringing Danny Green, this, that, and the third. And part of that reason was just like your demeanor, the way you carry yourself going into games like Game 6 was. And I will say this, Danny, I'm happy you played well because you also delivered a hell of a quote going into the game. I think Cliff, our producer, can play it on the back end, and we'll put it in a post-production. But I think you said you could either nut up or fold. Now, I know what that phrase means. Where did it come from?
It just came to me, man, at the moment. A lot of things, man, as I'm talking, the thoughts are just coming, and I'm thinking of what sayings. I make up my own sayings half the time. But, I didn't want to be, because, a lot of coaches come in there and they be like, when you play football, I played football back in the day, also basketball in the locker room. It's like, are you guys going to, you know what I'm saying? You're going to be soft, or you're going to grab your nuts and be a man, or what? That type of situation. I didn't want to say that to the press, grab your nuts, and you know what I'm saying? But it's like, either we go nut up, or, and obviously a lot of my friends and family have jokes about it. They send me messages like, yo, this quote is wild. Like, pause. First of all, pause, and they're like, yo, you really just say nut up in an interview? And it's like, bro, it just came to me, bro. You know what I'm saying? That happens, but that's the quote as we're going with it. I'm rocking with it. I'm standing by it. Nope, nut up. That's it. Either we're going to dogfight, whether I'm making shots or not. I was going to come into that series. We had to be the aggressor, and we had to be a physical. Either that's whether fouling out or you know what I'm saying, or getting on the floor, down loose balls, or boxing out, or make sure you crack, because they were getting offensive rebounds. But trying to do my part as best I could and being intense. And if we lost that way, I'm cool with it. But Game 5 was just unacceptable. The way we played, the way we lost. And by the flow of the game, regardless of even I shot decently well, even if I was in the game longer and I shot more, if the guys shot better, I knew just by the flow of the game and the way we were carrying ourselves, we were going to lose that game regardless what the coaches did. And it was tough to watch. It was disgusting. As Paul Millsap came in and he had his words, and when he speaks, people listen. We watched the film and he let it be known what that film that we watched was disgusting, and he let it know. We watched it as a group, and he gave a piece of his mind, and we're like, you know what, we gotta take this more serious. And I don't think we needed any extra motivation, but it's tough to stay mad for 2 days. We had 2 days in between. Keep that edge, keep that anger with us. But guys came in a little more angry. They had a hell of a first half. They hit a lot of shots, but we knew eventually that if we kept wearing on them and if we kept stayed mad and played for 48 minutes, that we would be able to get the job done.
Yeah, I think and when George came on the show before you guys went into that round one series, I think both of you said that you guys needed it. A series against the Raptors. Doc Rivers talked about it after the series. I think the Raptors made you guys a better team. Obviously, we wish that they also left you as a healthy team, but that is the nature of the playoffs. All right, let me give you my head coach thing before we get out of here real quick.
Let's do it.
All right. So I think, and I thought that Tobias was going to be a very important defensive player for you guys once the James Harden trade happened, because you guys didn't get back another defender in that trade. Mm-hmm. So I think Tobias, and this is assuming everybody's healthy. Again, I'm going to operate in pure optimism. I think Tobias takes Jimmy. If Jimmy makes contested jumpers, it is what it is. Just no layups. You have Joel Embiid, who's obviously guarding Bam, but because Bam can't space the floor, Joel can kind of patrol the paint and make sure guys take contested jumpers because they don't want to come in the paint and get their blocks swatted. I think you put James on PJ Tucker because that allows James to conserve energy. PJ Tucker, for the most part, is just hanging out in the corner. I think Maxey takes Strus because that's just a good they're not really going to run offense through Strus. A nice opportunity for him to just play a maybe more help defense, maybe get more maybe could help battle on the boards or be the first outlet person for a board so he can run out in fast break transition. And I think you take Kyle, and I think it happened in the Raptors series. I think outside of you having your legs right now, which is a good thing, I think the familiarity with the Raptors players also helped you as well from a defensive standpoint. And I think you obviously have familiarity with Kyle Lowry. You already know that he's going to try and foul bait. You've been in this league long enough to not pick up the type of cheesy fouls that a player like Kyle can generate against maybe a more inexperienced player. So I think that's how the defense kind of sets itself up. I think the moment that Duncan Robinson comes in, I think either you could shift up to guard him and Maxey can take Lowry, or this is where Matisse Thybulle can really be effective as a defender because he's got energy for days and length for days. And if Duncan's on a heater, or even if they're just using him as their function of their offense, because he is a big part of their offense, even if he's not shooting well, because they run him off of so many actions. Matisse can keep up with him, still challenge his shots. So I think that's pretty much how it will go. Obviously, if Hero comes in, then maybe you would take him. But I think from a defensive standpoint, you guys have enough. And the key is, and I thought the key is they don't have a dynamic KD-like scorer who could just go off for 50. And then on top of that, Bam Adebayo cannot space to the three-point line, which allows Joel Embiid to be the backbone of the defense. And then offensively, I don't think there's any team in the league that could actually stop you guys. As long as Joel is on point, you guys are going to score a amount of points as long as you run the offense smoothly.
James and Joel, if they're on a P's and Q's, I think everything goes. And Tyrese, if we're playing the way we're supposed to be playing and clicking, I think our offense is very good. But I do like the matchups you have. Tobias on Jimmy, bigger guard, bigger body, contested twos. Keeping him out the paint, keeping him off the free throw line is the biggest thing with Jimmy. Strus said he's not as active, but he is. They playing him somewhat similar to Duncan Robinson, run off screens. And I think having me on him is probably better. A bigger guard to contest, to throw off his shot a little bit more. That's the only difference I would make on it. And Kalo, I said I do have familiarity with Kalo. I think the biggest reason why you would put me on Kalo is because of the pick and roll. He's the only one that's handling the ball as much on the perimeter, and it's a pick and roll. And if we need to switch, or if I need to get on the big, if he gets downhill and I can switch to the big, I think that's better to have a bigger body on the big or Bam, or to be able to box him out or keep him off the glass or try to help keep him off the glass. It'll be tougher for Tyrese. But yeah, I do like what you're calling. I do think that it might be better for Tyrese to start on Kalo. Tyrese his defense has gotten a lot better this year. So I do trust him with the Kalo situation. I said the biggest thing is him chasing Strus around, picking or screens and stuff like that, and being able to contest at a high level because he's a bigger guard is the only concern that I have with that type of matchup. But everybody else, Matisse, Duncan Robinson, myself, Duncan Robinson, we chase him because he's 6'7", 6'8". You get the bigger guards to be able to contest his shot and be able to affect or to alter or to make him feel you when he's shooting. I think to have on him because you can't put Tyrese on him. You can, but I think it's better to have one of the bigger guards. But yeah, Tyrese on Kalo and us chasing Duncan Robinson around. I'm trying to think who else comes off the bench for them. They don't really play that many depth of people. Oladipo had a great finish.
I was just gonna get there. That and we started the history of the show was not in the history of the show when we first started. I was not a Victor Oladipo fan, and I still might not be. but and you'd have to go back to the history of our first season to find out why. But shout out to him coming back off this injury, staying with it. Ended up staying with Miami, taking the minimum dollar to go back there. It worked on his body to the point where he feels comfortable enough to go out there and have a 20-point game in a playoff series, where they feel comfortable enough to sit Jimmy Butler because of knee inflammation and say they can still pull it off. And look what he did. I think obviously health is the first most important thing in this series, but he is a wild card. I don't know how much they'll use him if they are fully healthy, but he clearly has something to prove, right? So interesting. I think that obviously if everything is equal in terms of health, I think that is the biggest wild card because he could shift things for sure.
For sure. Amazing story for him, man. I'm so happy for him that he's back and healthy and be able to play at a high level. And I do hope that he's able to get the contract that he passed up on or missed out on because of the injury after this, and maybe not be with Miami but elsewhere, because he is still a very capable, good player in this league. But I just hope he doesn't affect us as much in this series as he did last series. He is a wild card, but I do think we have Matisse. We have pieces that can guard him. He's still very able and crafty, able to score, but I don't think he's as explosive getting to the rim as he used to be. So we have the personnel to be able to match up with them well, and I do like James on PJ Tucker to be able to help and shift. And PJ's not running; you just have to box him out, and keep him off the glass. Joel on Bam, he doesn't space the floor from three as much. But the shooters, we just have to contain them, run around, chase them, and offensively just do what we do.
Yeah, I if you guys can actually have the full roster out there, I feel very, very, very optimistic. And I also feel very optimistic, and it was tweeted out from our official Twitter account, Green Room Inside, because, not to say I'm the most superstitious person, but since the beginning of this show, Inside the Green Room with Danny Green, you have not lost a playoff series that you were a full-time participant in. So let's keep the streak rolling. Yeah. Let's keep going. We started this podcast with pessimistic vibes, but look at us. We're by the end of it now, and we're optimistic again.
We're still rolling, man.
We're still rolling. It sounds bad, but it doesn't have to be bad. Mm-hmm. Danny, any last words before we don't see you again?
Rate, subscribe, review, and yeah, man, I'm excited for this series. We'll see you guys at the end of the series, hopefully with another W and moving on. 4 more wins will get us there, and it's gonna be a hell of a series, gonna be a fun one. But we're all hopeful right now, and hopefully we'll have some better news for you guys in the near future. So keep tuning in.